Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this Monday, January 9th meeting of the Town of Winchendon Board of Health. If we could all please stand and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have one guest here this evening. In accordance with the Mass Open Meeting Law, are you recording this evening, sir? I'm assuming the answer is no. Okay, for the record, nobody in the public is recording here this evening. That being said, we're going to immediately go to the Chair's health update for the Town of Winchendon. Public health update for Monday, January 9th for the Board of Health, based on the most recent January 5th Mass Department of Public Health, January 5th health updates. Area illness rate skyrocketing, area hospitals nearing capacity. Current triple-demic rates of COVID-19, the flu and RSV infections are causing significant stress on local Commonwealth-wide hospitals and secondary health facilities, which are now asking for the public to please take common sense precautions and measures with their health as systems are nearing or are now at full capacity depending on location. Patients from both the Chair City and North Quabbin regional areas are now continuing to show up at times on social media, reported by their families transported to out-of-state hospitals just to get a bed for treatment as needed on case-by-case basis. All indicators are now up according to the Mass DPH as of Thursday, January 5th, their newest figures. The Commonwealth 14-day average, per its latest report, has increased to 11.94%, just shy of 12, with the more accurate 7-day viral COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 positivity average, now up to 13.39% positivity across Massachusetts. 9 of our 10 local towns are now in viral double digits. Locally in our immediate 10-town area of North Worcester County, 9 of 10 towns are now in viral COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 positivity. In just the last 7 days, based on the newest Massachusetts Department of Public Health report, released Thursday, January 5th, our 10-town immediate area, traveling 2 towns in any direction south of the state of New Hampshire border from Winchendon, has increased in viral positivity from 10.93 to 14.30% average, a 24% week jump, and has now almost nearly doubled in COVID-19 positivity from just 7.75% just 2 weeks prior. Beginning with Winchendon at 10,500 residents, which this week actually dipped from 13.29 to 10.42. Toy Town was one of only 3 area towns which realized a slight viral decrease. Those joining Toy Town were Hubbardston, dropping from a very high 13.83 to a still high 13.43% positivity, and the town of Athol, with now nearly 12,000 residents, still above 8%, lowering from 8.56 to 8.01% positivity based on just under 400 molecular tests, or 395. Local municipalities on the rise were Ashburnham, moving from 10.62 to 11.76%. Its school district partnering town of Westminster increasing from 6.25 all the way up to 12.32%. In the Narragansett Regional School District to Winchendon South, Templeton realized a significant surge, increasing from 7.3 to 15.65% positivity, and its partnering town Phillipston increasing on a surge from 14.29 to 18.1% positivity, almost 18.2. And Ashby to Ashburnham's east increased from 10.62 to 14.93% positivity, all high increases. With Royalston to Winchendon's west, also a joint member of the Athol-Royalston Regional School District, surging from 14.3 to 25% positivity. Lastly, in the Chair City, the city of Gardner, with 21,000 residents, to Winchendon South, increased from 8.75 to 12.85% positivity. Again, it should be noted, none of these numbers include any store-bought or government-provided home antigen test kits, which are not mandated for reporting by the Mass DPH for any health calculations according to it, and according to the DPH, at a bare minimum, add at least, if not more, 5% or better to any state DPH, town or city COVID positivity average. The chair of the Board of Health reached out to Don Casavant, Vice President of External Affairs for Haywood Hospital, which is also part of their media relations, regarding how full Haywood Hospital is at this time due to the current triple-demic. Haywood Hospital received and provided for us in an extremely timely manner, to her and Haywood Hospital's credit, the following healthcare statement. Haywood Healthcare, along with Haywood Health Systems across the Commonwealth, is experiencing a surge of high acuity patients, including a high prevalence of COVID-19 and influenza, lacking in a lack of inpatient beds statewide. Currently, there are 23, and this as of last Friday, there are 23 COVID-19 inpatients in the Haywood system and a handful of influenza patients. Wastewater data is indicating a potential peak during the month of January. In an effort to optimize access to health care for residents in our community, we at Haywood have to prioritize inpatient beds for those with urgent and emergent needs. There is no interruption to elective outpatient, urgent, or emergent surgeries. Due to the higher volume of inpatient admissions, capacity for elective inpatient surgeries is evaluated daily. Unfortunately, some patients scheduled for elective inpatient surgeries had to be rescheduled. We provide as much notice as possible, understanding and considerable planning and preparation taken on behalf of our patients scheduled for surgery, stated Rosanna Penny, Vice President of Ambulatory and Proprietary Services for Haywood Healthcare. Community members can help by contacting your primary care physician upon onset of symptoms and by accessing the right level of care at the right place. Residents experiencing more mild symptoms may be at least evaluated at an urgent care center, such as Haywood Urgent Care Gardner and Tully Walk-In Care Athol. Patients experiencing severe symptoms should seek emergency care. Residents can also help by avoiding public places if they are sick by wearing a mask and avoiding transmission to others. Don Casavant, Vice President of External Affairs, Executive Director, Haywood Healthcare Charitable Foundation, Haywood Healthcare. And again, the Town of Winchendon Board of Health would like to thank Don Casavant, who upon myself contacting her, got this statement to us the same day, just after 7 p.m. in the evening, so that we could have this in our Board of Health update that went in the Winchendon Courier online for its publication that evening just after midnight. It meant that much to Haywood that we reached out to them on behalf of the Town of Winchendon to help get in a health update to help better assist Haywood Hospital and its patients. So thank you again to Don Casavant and Haywood Healthcare. So with that, yes sir?
I would probably like to say, Mr. Chair, that probably the high increase we've had probably due to the holidays. New Year's and Christmas.
Yep.
And so it should start sloping back down, I would say, next probably a couple of weeks.
The last 2 years, going by those numbers, what you're referring to, close, large, in-person gatherings, the last 2 years, it didn't start sloping back down until the second or third week of February. So that's what we're shooting for.
And actually, Winchendon is actually doing all right.
Right now,
It's dropping. It didn't get that increase.
and right now, we're hoping one of the attributations to that is the fact that this year, we have a lot more home antigen tests out in the community, as a health agent knows, than we had at this time last year. Last year, a lot of homes didn't have these tests available in their homes, that this year, thankfully, the Board of Health has had available to people in our town, and that people can't afford necessarily to buy right now, the cost of inflation. So having these tests in people's homes right now readily available has hopefully helped a lot of people at least know if they need to stay home rather than be out. So there's a lot of variables involved that at least we have more to people's credit advantage than they had last year too. Anything else? Anybody else?
Not this time, thank you for the update.
You're welcome. Okay, at this time, if somebody, we have Robert Silva, Septic Preservation Services here for a presentation for the Board of Health this evening. He is actually item number 5 on the agenda, but as he's the only person here in the audience, if somebody would like to make a motion to take him out of order, it'd be up to the board.
I'll make a motion to move Robert Silver Septic Preservation Service to the top of the agenda.
A motion has been made by member Ed Bond and seconded by member Lionel Cloutier to take Robert Silver, Septic Preservation Services, out of order on the agenda so he may speak with his presentation this evening. And with that, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Tina Santos?
Aye.
Ed Bond?
Aye.
Lionel Cloutier?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes 4-0 yes. Mr. Silva, if you could please come up and talk to us. And so members of the board know this evening, Mr. Silva is here to talk to us about a newer kind of septic system that he has been working on installing where available. The health agent is usually completely 100%, as he is legally qualified, for approving these systems, as the Board of Health works more with approving variances. So usually the health agent would just be involved in seeing these with this gentleman. However, the health agent talked to me and said, as this is a newer system, and we'll let Jim tell us about how he's here with how it processes coffee grounds better and everything, we'll hand it off to the health agent. We realize that it would be better to let, as an educational purpose, let the board members learn about this evening. So James, if you would.
Yeah, basically that's it. It's you know, let the board know this is newer technology that we have not had in town yet. But I have talked to health agents in other towns where this has been, seems to have been an advantageous thing for these gas stations and Dunkin' Donuts and those type of places that are on septics that do empty a lot of their coffee. You know, everybody wants a fresh cup of coffee, so every couple hours they have to dump out the old coffee. And also within the last couple of years, a lot of extra cleaning and sanitizing products have gone into these septic systems and also caused problems. So this seems to help a lot with the you know, getting these systems back up on their feet. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Silva. He can explain the
Welcome.
finer aspects of it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming this evening. I appreciate the chance to learn about these newer systems.
So, I'm not sure, you guys are kind of inland a little bit from a lot of Massachusetts. But conventional septic systems in our lifetime will no longer exist in the state of Massachusetts. Right? The state of Massachusetts is shifting toward denutrification, or systems which are capable of removing nitrogen and phosphorus to stop the ongoing pollution of our drinking water, of groundwater, well water, of our estuaries. So in our lifetime, we'll see the end of conventional septic systems, and even on-site septic systems, even at single-family homes, will all be wastewater treatment plants. They're just basically miniaturized, so that you can put wastewater or sewage into one end and essentially get drinking water out of the other end. Yeah,
Really?
It's new to areas like Winchton because of high-strength waste in this particular case. But as a technology, this technology was actually developed at the end of World War II. So at the end of World War II, the U.S. Congress commissioned three commissions to look into different things, right? So one was weapon systems and how you could make them all common, which resulted in the M16 and that whole class of weapons being designed. And another one was how to fight a war in Africa, because we really thought that World War III would be fought over the natural resources of Africa. And the biggest problem that they had was there's no water. Right? You're in northern Africa, you can drill like through the earth to the center, and there is no water. So you have to reuse the water that you have. And what the military did was they designed technologies, basically trucks or tanks, where you could put raw sewage in one end, and you could fill your canteen up from the other. And over the 50s and 60s, that technology was privatized, and it was first used around the Great Lakes. And then with the Clean Water Act in 1973 or 74, it expanded. It became much more in use, especially around the Great Lakes and the Midwest. And then starting in the early 2000s, we saw the use of these systems throughout Massachusetts and really the whole Northeast. You've got the lakes regions in New Hampshire, and you have all the islands in Maine, where there's no place to dump sewage. You basically have rocks. So they needed these technologies that could produce drinking quality water, and then either discharge it to a receiving waterway or evaporate it. Cape Cod, Auburn Reservoir, there's a lot of places where we need to clean up the water. So what we kind of did about 20 years ago was we kind of took a twist on this, and rather than trying to take raw sewage and create drinking water out of it, we said, well, we have many situations where we have high-strength waste, and we don't need to create drinking water out of it, we just need to get it back down to average-strength wastewater. Okay? So in 2002, the EPA, the federal EPA, published a guidance document to all of the state agencies like Mass DEP, and there were several key elements, but one key element was that they basically came out and said that the country is on the verge of an epidemic of premature failures because starting in the 50s when the first EPA guidance document came out till 2002, all of their guidance documents referred to residential strength waste, not high strength waste. And all of the states had taken these guidance documents and just applied them across the board. And the one assumption that kind of got left behind was that it was residential strength waste. And if you look at a single family home and you measure single family home, multi-family home, condos, apartments, okay? If you look at the organic content in terms of parts per million in that wastewater, it's typically about 350 parts per million. Okay? And that's coming from the house. Well, we know that with commercial waste, we know that it's between 2,000 and 3,500, right? Approximately 10 times stronger. So you get about 10 times more waste of organic matter for the system to deal with. And if you kind of dig into the science a little bit more, that waste is typically not pre-digested by us. So a single-family home, people eat food, right? They have bowel movements, they urinate, okay? That all ends up in the waste stream, but it's pre-digested. It's been through our body, and our body has bacteria that break it down. And they break it down from very complex chemical compounds to simpler compounds. So then the bacteria which are in our soils can further break them down to carbon dioxide, minerals, and water. If you take fats and oils and greases from McDonald's, Burger King, Dunkin' Donuts, coffees, it hasn't been through our digestive tract, so it's much more complex. 12 to 14 times more complex than waste which is passed through our intestine. So for simple math, since it's after 5, if you take, a single family home has a waste strength of typically 350, and now you've got the waste strength coming out of these commercial properties of 3,500.
10 times, you said.
10 times, right? But then if you figure that it's 10 times more complex, it takes 10 times more energy for the bacteria to break it down, it's actually 100 times more complex than the waste that stream in a single-family home. Right? So through a strange turn of events, we were hired about 15 years ago by Dunkin' Donuts corporate to figure out why they were having so many premature failures of their septic systems. And over a 5-year period, we looked at dozens and dozens of systems. There's systems like this particular site.
Was it the coffee? The coffee grounds?
That's a part of
Oh,
it.
grease traps, yeah.
That's a part of it. Well, so I guess it's all a part of it, right? So what we found was over 5 years, that, and we did this, and then we submitted the results to Dunkin' Donuts corporate, and they scratched their head, and then they hired 3 separate independent engineering groups to attack us and just beat us up and go over this over and over and over and over again. It was like, you know, a long drawn out court case to see, is this valid? Is what they found the truth, you know? And what we found was, so many years ago, Dunkin' Donuts shifted their cooking from the local stores to central commissaries. So there are very few Dunkin' Donuts stores that actually do full-on cooking of donuts and everything anymore, right?
Yep.
They do some baking and some food prep, but it's not like it used to be. We're all about the same age.
It's no, it's
Time
no-
to make
When
the
we were all
donuts, get up
kids,
early.
there was a baker at every, right?
Right.
At every location that baked the donuts. That's no longer the case. So grease traps are still needed, but they're not as needed or as key to this whole problem, right? If you look at a lot of Dunkin' Donuts that have been around for a long time, and you'll see a grease trap or septic tank, and then it failed after 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, and then the engineer thought he would, high strength waste, I'll add another tank, failed again after 5 years, yeah, but maybe I still need another tank, added another tank. So what we found was the average Dunkin' Donuts dumps about 88 gallons of coffee a day. And coffee has a organic content of about 3,000. But it's soluble BOD, which means that it will never float or sink. So you can have 100 septic tanks, and it's not gonna do any good, because it's not gonna sink, it's not gonna float, it's gonna continue to pass through. And that's part of it. So you have this high strength waste, which is gonna pass through. You know, cream, they don't dump a lot of cream. There is some, and cream does a couple of things. One is it depletes any free oxygen which is in the wastewater, it depletes. And a septic system is a living bacterial zoo,
Cream's not good.
right? So cream isn't good because it steals all the oxygen, right? Well, the other thing is when I was a kid, I was not a very good student. And one day in middle school, we were supposed to go on this field trip across the street to a marsh. And the teacher told us, you need to bring in a Tupperware container, do not bring in a coffee can. And little Robbie didn't listen, and brought in a coffee can.
It takes solace in knowing you weren't the only late bloomer.
So, you know, when we got back to class, and everybody was looking through their microscopes and looking at all the little things swimming around and moving, everything that I was looking at was dead. It was all still. And the teacher used this to make an example on me how important it was to listen to the teacher, which was actually very traumatic. But now if I could find her, I'd thank her, because
Life lesson.
even caffeine at very, very low levels can have a very dramatic impact on small creatures, bacteria, which is what a septic system is dependent on. So some bacteria will survive, and if you take that wastewater that has survived through the stream and you return it back to the beginning, then they'll continue to do well. And if you continue to do that, and you could actually populate the system with bacteria that are naturally occurring, but will survive the caffeine, okay, the caffeine rush. Without that, you can't. They don't. They die. So and the pH is very, very low. So another key element is correcting the pH. So coffee has a pH of about 4. And if you look at any of and the pH scale is logarithmic. So with 7 being neutral, when you go from 7 to 6.9, that's 10.
I'm thinking like either soils or a swimming pool right now.
Okay, yep, so from 7 to 6.9 is a factor of 10, to 6.8 is a factor of 100. And, right, so by the time you get to a pH of 5, you actually have wastewater which is almost sterile. When you get down into the 4s, it's actually very close to being sterile because your bacteria and viruses can't survive in that acidic of an environment. So in these complex commercial systems, we need to improve the pH, get it back up to 7, and utilize, do something to get the bacteria, give them a fighting chance against the chemicals and the caffeine and whatnot that are in the systems. So what we did is we designed a system which is aerobic treatment, so we get the oxygen level back up. And so you need to maintain aerobic conditions where aerobic bacteria will live. Aerobic bacteria are the only bacteria that can take organic material, like all of our leaves. If we didn't have aerobic bacteria, after how many millions of years of trees been around, think of we'd be buried under leaves. So every year, leaves eat the grass, the clippings, and the leaves, and they convert it. Yeah, they convert that organic matter to carbon dioxide, minerals, and water. Then the minerals and water are then uptaken by new plant life, and it's the carbon cycle. It goes round and round. So we get the oxygen level back up, we correct the pH, and we recirculate so that the bacteria that are surviving in this harsh environment can continue to reproduce and continue to expand to consume all of that waste. Yeah, and
What is the name of this kind of a system?
well, what we're proposing is a white knight, which is the model name manufactured by Knight Treatment Systems. You could use, and I'm not sure how many aerobic treatment systems you have around, but I mean, Advantex, or Biomicrobics Fast, Singulaire are probably the most 3 common in the state of Massachusetts. Any type of aerobic treatment will work. Right? In any of the 3 that I mentioned are what's called package plants. So they're actually designed to take in sewage and produce drinking quality water. Right? So we don't have to do that. Right? So if we were to use a package plant at a site like this, it would be so large and so expensive, it wouldn't make any sense, because you're trying to take very, very high strength complex waste and convert it to drinking water, which in this case we don't have to do. So the White Knight allows us kind of an infinite amount of flexibility. So we can take any size tank, and we can basically put in any amount of equipment that we want. So we look at a site like this and we say, I think there's 2,000 gallons per day of flow, and we say, all right, so we want to have 3 days retention time, and therefore we want to have, in my mind, 8 days of treatment time, so that if we ever lose one of the air pumps, we still have the minimum needed to properly treat. Right? So we're able to change this. Now, if there's a site right next door that's larger and has larger, higher water consumption, we can go to a 10,000 gallon tank, and we just put more towers in it, more air pumps, and it's infinitely configurable. So we're basically building a wastewater treatment plant just like Deer Island, except instead of creating drinking quality water, we're just trying to get that waste stream back down to residential waste.
So if you don't mind me asking,
Not at all.
I'm kind of new at this too, so I'm kind of learning myself. But I guess, so this is just for septic systems, correct? Septics and leach fields. It's not, you had mentioned about, the wastewater refiltering it back to like drinkable water and so forth. So that, it's not necessarily town water, town sewer, wastewater plant, et
Well,
cetera,
so
correct?
it is biologically, it is the same thing that municipalities use.
Okay. So you'd be like pumping it from their septic? Or is it more
No,
commercial?
basically
basically?
aerate it.
Yeah, in this
Aerating with the
particular,
pumps and
case,
things of
what will
that
happen is
nature, okay.
the wastewater will come out of the kitchen and go to the grease trap. the main sewer will come out and go to a septic tank. The grease trap then flows into the septic. And then the septic tank will discharge to this wastewater treatment plant, where it will be aerated and treated. It will then flow out of there into the pump chamber and go out to the field. It's, like, biologically, this is the same as it was 2,000 years ago. Right? So if you look at, we know that the Romans had aqueducts to bring fresh water into their cities. Well, they also had aqueducts to bring the sewage out of the cities. And they basically went into these big lagoons, and they had slaves with branches, and they went out and they beat the wastewater, mixing it and aerating it to increase the oxygen and consume the waste. Well, if we want to be kind of crude, all that's changed now is every company that makes this equipment changes it just enough so we can get our own patent, so that we can sell it. Right? But biologically, it's still the same as the Romans. Right? It really hasn't changed. You put in a fish tank bubbler of some sort or another that's big enough to get you need to maintain an oxygen level above 0.2 to maintain aerobic conditions.
Gotcha.
So in this particular case, what we want to do is we want to get the oxygen level so high that the oxygen is carried into the leach field, and the leach field actually becomes part of the wastewater treatment plant. So
The decomposing process.
correct. So if we can get the leach field oxygen level up above 0.2, right now it's 0, which is, the term septic means lack of oxygen. So if we can get it above 2, then we can convert the entire leach field into an aerobic digester, and it will consume all of the sludge which has consumed, or which has been deposited in the bottom of the leach field. And that's what it looks like. So you see how clean the sand is? So the sand underneath the system is clean, but at the interface between the sand and the stone, you've got this, it looks like crude oil. And what that is years and years of human waste, which has been deposited, and it's created a biomat or a clog mat, which restricts the water. The water can no longer get through it. So what we want to do is remove that, and what a healthy, see how dry the sand is underneath these? Okay, and I apologize, I only have one of these. But this is the same system 6 months later after converting it to aerobic treatment. And you see how brown, it's brown now, and if you look at the soil underneath it, it's warm, right? It's wet. That sand is wet. The water is passing through, and it's not restricted. The flow isn't restricted anymore.
Oh, you
I've
see
seen
them.
hundreds of them.
Gotcha.
I was gonna joke you got rid of the cream.
Yep. So we actually have a site, one of the things that Jim had asked, being unfamiliar with this, is, well, where do you have these? And
Is this going in at that Duncan station at Irving?
140.
It is going at the Irving
That's-
station?
That's what we're proposing, yeah.
Mhm.
So the closest one that we have to you guys is actually in Orange, which is fairly close. And
We have one down on River Street. The waste treatment plant.
okay.
It's the same thing.
Yes, it is. So,
Right, but that's more like town water or town sewer, I guess.
But it's
Yeah.
doing the
So
So
same
the
it's
one
the
in,
same-
the one in
same
Orange,
thing, but
where
I guess
Orange is that?
this is
Is that the
more
one
for
where
septic.
the big sign is right next to Route 2, or?
This system.
167 Daniel Shea Highway,
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about, yep.
it's a honey farm,
Mhm.
and, yeah.
I know where you are.
So, when we install that one there, the owner of that owns a whole bunch of those locations.
Yeah.
And Honey Farm, had the same problem that Dunkin' Donuts had. And they were like, okay, yeah, we're gonna put this in, but then we put it in, and then they wanted to dissect it. They wanted to dig into it and see, was it actually working? So over a period of a couple of years, they actually did some tests, and these tests were taken out of the distribution box, which is after the entire system. So in this particular case, the BOD had been reduced down to 110.
Now, Jim, this D box, is that still a tilt of like 1 degree or whatever the standard is to that D box? Was that like a 1 degree
filters at the distribution box. They usually go out fairly level for a couple of feet, and then maybe go down to a 1 or 2%.
What it was, I couldn't remember if it was 1 degree or 1%, what it was.
Yeah.
Just so it flows,
Yeah.
basically.
That's what I meant, it's a very minor gravity pitch.
And then one of the samples, you know, the owner himself actually went out and collected the samples, because he, after showing him 3 or 4 results, he was like, all right, thank you for these, but I want to do it myself. So these 2 pages, you can see, it's the grease trap, septic tank, and then V-box. You can see that the fats, oils, and greases go from 330 to 35 to 9, or 9.5. And the BOD goes from 2,800 to 1,200 to 300.
Seems like a drop.
Yeah, yeah. And we know that of the BOD that's remaining in the V-box, that like almost 90% of that is actually living bacteria. So when you measure BOD, it's everything that's organic. You can't differentiate. And here there's just some other dates and some other test results.
So it just continues to decompose.
Correct, yeah.
So in other words, it works.
Yes. And so every year, by February 5th, we have to provide Mass DEP with a summary of every system and the status of that system.
That you've installed?
Right. Not only that we've installed, that's been sold in Massachusetts. And so, a little history about septic preservation services. We not only distribute and install with the White Knight, we're also the distributor for the Singularity, which is one of the package plants in Massachusetts. And we also install conventional systems. We have no financial, whether we install a conventional system, a package plant, or a White Knight, doesn't make any difference to us. I mean, financially, we're gonna make money either way, right? So we try to direct our customers toward what's best financially for them.
Long term.
Long term, right. And again, this particular system is, what's nice is it is fairly close, but it's also almost a mirror image of this site here. You know, you've got a same kind of facility with gas, with a Dunkin' Donuts. It's almost identical. You've got a grease trap, septic tank, pump chamber, and we basically inserted a treatment tank between the septic tank and the pump chamber. And that's really the preferred, at any Dunkin' Donuts, you know, McDonald's, that's really what we're doing. It's a cookie cutter, it's the same thing over and over again.
Yes. Does this extend the life of like the actual septic system,
Yes.
I assume?
So, yes.
I
So
would
as-
think that they wouldn't need to replace it, or I guess kind of,
So, in Massachusetts, if we steer a customer toward a White Knight, then part of the rules, the approval letter, is that in the first year, if we're not able to get the system to pass its Title V, then we basically got to refund that owner their money. Right? So we don't want to do this if
So
we're
you
not
have a
sure
considerable
that-
risk.
Oh, yeah, yes, there's a risk. And, you know, knock on wood, we have not had a failure of
A
a commercial
refund.
system.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nice.
So that, again, that's the system in orange, and this is,
Now, there's monitors on the aerated system. So if the
Yeah.
aerated system goes down, they know.
correct. So
That would be the biggest problem I could see about it. You lose your air, you lose your,
well,
decomposed.
so we know that anything that's mechanical is going to fail.
Yes.
Right? So rather than using one large blower, like a regenerative blower or even diaphragm
Yeah.
blower,
Quite a
we,
few.
right, so in this particular case, we need, to maintain the process, we need 3 blowers, right? So we would use 4, so that when one goes down, it sets off the alarm, but the process is still continuing. And then we'll get out there within a couple of days or a week. You can see the tank configuration here is really the same as there. Grease trap, septic tank, treatment tank, and then the pump chamber.
It's a miniature wastewater treatment plant.
All right.
It's a sized down wastewater treatment plant.
Do you have any for town?
I worked at a wastewater.
This is the
treatment
one,
plant
this is
right
the
now,
one that's going in.
Yeah.
which everything is monitored and it's.
At Orange, or,
Yeah,
40?
Route 140.
Oh,
This is the one going down on 140.
Now, is this primarily for like commercial, or you said that they can be used for like residential?
Yeah, they can be used for residential. Now, in
There must be
Massachusetts.
like a different model or.
There is,
small
yes,
model.
it would be a single model. Massachusetts is very, very strict with their rules of applying, this process is called biological remediation. So again, Massachusetts is very strict. So to pass a Title V inspection, you would only have to make sure that the effluent level in the D-box was at the outlet inlet. If you're using biological remediation, you've got to show that it's 50, if the leach field, if you have a bed which is 12 inches high, you've got to show that the liquid level is at least 6 inches below the D-box outlet inlet, so that you've restored at least 50% of the storage capacity. So it's a very tough standard to hit.
The systems are more, it's 10 times more potent than what's coming out of a house. And this is what breaks it down, to make it the same as what's coming out of the house.
I'm just
And they're tough
curious,
standards on a house right now.
how is the cost? I guess
It wouldn't be cost effective for a house, I don't think.
No.
Well, so
I don't know.
in
I'm just curious
in
if it's
Massachusetts,
a dramatic amount.
the cost in Massachusetts to install one of these is about $12,000 for a single family.
Oh, that's not that bad.
So, you know, in
On top of what the regular cost is, or
No.
versus the regular cost?
versus the regular cost. So in a single family home, we can go in and actually install the treatment equipment in the septic tank. Okay? Then if people are flushing trash and stuff that they shouldn't be flushing, there's nobody to blame but
Themselves,
in a commercial application, we can't do that.
like non-flushable wipes, things of that nature.
Correct. So in a site like 93. Drive,
So now, when you say $12,000, we're referring to when somebody puts in a septic system in their home, traditional septic systems are anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. And you're saying something like this is basically half that.
Correct.
And it's doing double the job or twice, 3 times.
In commercial applications, we're typically seeing between a third and 50%.
Does this take up less space, are you finding, on a lot, residential lot?
We don't get any field size reduction
Okay.
in Massachusetts. So in
I
New
was just
Hampshire,
curious what the data shows.
in New Hampshire and Maine, we get a 50% field size reduction for new construction.
Mhm.
In Massachusetts, this is only allowed to be used for remedial, to save a failed system, and there's no field size reduction.
So New Hampshire and Maine are letting it being used with a field size reduction, Mass is giving you,
They're tougher.
That sounds like that.
and that's where I'm gonna bite my tongue right now.
So in other words,
Mass is only for remedial, you're
Yes.
saying? Yeah, and New Hampshire.
So
and
is-
Maine.
There's
So-
gonna be a lot of these that are gonna be used out in the Cape Cod area, because I think there's a big push. They're having wastewater issues in the whole area out there, so.
You think?
Yeah.
So Massachusetts just passed a law that is very, very radical. And basically, so there are, all the Cape Cod, right, you know, Plymouth, Carver, Wareham, Dartmouth, Westport, Swansea, Seacon, all along the coast there, the North Shore, they've been having nitrogen problems for decades. And
Excuse me.
through a process, a town or the state can designate an area as being what's called nitrogen sensitive. Okay? You probably have nitrogen sensitive areas here. Now, this site is served by town water.
Correct.
But if this site had a well, okay?
Well, actually,
This-
no, this site is on a well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so because the site is on a well, that well had, and they're selling the water, that makes it a public water supply.
Correct.
So that wellhead protection area is a nitrogen-sensitive area, okay? So what the legislature passed a law, they're now, the next phase is for the is for the people who have to enact the law to sit down and figure out, okay, now that something's passed, how do we do it? And they've extended the public comment and discussion period that was supposed to end just before the holidays. And basically, what the law says is, if a nitrogen-sensitive area exists anywhere in the town, okay, then the entire town is nitrogen-sensitive, unless the town or the individual applying for an application performs a study and proves that their site is not. To do that would be outrageously expensive. So essentially, if any town has a nitrogen-sensitive area, then the entire town will be deemed nitrogen-sensitive. And then, if that's the case, then every system in the town has to be replaced with best possible technology of denitrification within 5 years. So it would no longer be, right now, like if you're in the town of Westport, the whole town is nitrogen sensitive. So if you sell your house, you're entitled to inspection. If it fails, then you have to replace it. You have to replace it with a denitrification system. It will change, and it will no longer be at the time of sale. Everybody will have to do it within 5 years.
You know what part of town this sounds most beneficial at, obviously.
Lake variances.
Well, so the lake,
Because they're right on top of each other.
Right.
so the lake, so aerobic treatment is good around lake properties for a few reasons. One is, right, when you aerobically treat wastewater, you consume or kill disease-causing bacteria. So that's a good thing. You get rid of your coliforms. Second thing is, it allows you the ability to, if it's really needed, to sterilize. And so you can, through chlorination, dechlorination, which Massachusetts doesn't like, or through UV disinfection, you can kill off any remaining bacteria or viruses. And you can also remove nitrogen. If you've got problems with algae blooms and fish kills in ponds, where they used to be nice and clear, and now they're green, mucky, right? Phosphorus removal is a little more difficult, because nitrogen removal can be done biologically using bacteria. But phosphorus removal really can only be done through electrolysis. So you actually have to get the phosphorus to attach electrically to another substrate, so that it doesn't pass through and continue to the lake. So it's doable, but it's a little different process. Denitrification can be done biologically, and it's fairly easy to do.
On a sensitive place, that would be like around the reservoir, wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
And the reservoir, our reservoir is in the next town over. So I don't think it, right? What you do that at all.
So
We
depending,
don't have a water source in Lucia,
No, we come from the reservoir, the aquifer in Ashburnham that we share with them.
which is, that's their town. Their town could have to be like that, on Lucia.
You know, well, it all inevitably falls under Mass DEP and the MWRA make the final decision. Neither one of the towns do, it falls under the MWRA.
and as a town, you can, through the hometown rule, request that rules be stricter than the state rules, but not less strict.
They have to at least meet the state rules. Make them strong, but you can't make them weak.
Interesting.
This has been very, very enlightening.
Absolutely.
This white knight system is, yeah, it's definitely the way of the future with septic. And like you said, in our lifetime, traditional septic systems as we know it are going to go the wayside of the dinosaur.
Yeah, they're on their way out. You know, with our population density, we just can't continue with septic systems. And another key point that the federal EPA made in 2002 was you can't. They basically said, look, we've been telling you that we need to sewer the world, and guess what? We were wrong. That that's not correct. The sinkholes in Florida, if you sewer the world, that's what happens. If you take more water out of the ground and you put it back in, right, then something has to give, and you get sinkholes. You know, the town of Swansea, Massachusetts, they expanded their city sewer a decade ago, and 18 months later, they had to go to the town next door and say, look, can we buy drinking water from you while we build a desalination plant? Because they had no more water.
Remember that.
Yeah, so, you know, it's, you've got to put the water back into the ground, and you know, it's, because I work in multiple states, and you know, I get to interact with some people who, you know, University of Rhode Island doesn't only, the administration of the staff members at the URI on-site wastewater group not only you know, teach at URI, but they work for the federal EPA as guidance providers for the U.S. Virgin Islands and for other countries. And it's kind of neat to see what some other countries are doing. You know, in Japan, there are no conventional septic systems anymore. In Kenya, there are no more conventional septic systems.
It's amazing when you go around the world, how many countries are ahead of the curve on certain things, whether, like you said, it's septic systems or bullet trains and public transport. It's, some countries are so ahead of the curve than others. Yep.
I was gonna say, when I did some reading on that, and one of the biggest things is getting the public to believe that the septic water you can drink. And that's just a
Yeah.
public relations thing.
Yeah.
It's like, and I think I even heard on the radio, they were interviewing people, they were telling them, that was the biggest thing, is to get people to believe that the water was,
Old stereotypes,
yeah.
right?
So, I mean,
Yeah.
the bottom line is that if, you know, he lives there and you're his neighbor and she's your neighbor, okay? When he flushes his toilet, it goes through his septic tank and goes back into the ground,
into my
okay?
well.
It goes into your well.
Which is why
And it
this,
keeps going.
well, that's why at this time, we're referring to Lake Menominee, where with variables, we have to keep instituting impermeable liners. Because as part of these variances, we're doing these walls and these impermeable liners, and at some point, something's gotta give, because the variances, we keep having these lots which are so small, because these were never meant to be home lots.
Right.
And we're constantly following this doctrine and forced upon us of, if you don't give somebody a variance, you are essentially making their home worthless.
Right.
Because they're not gonna have a working bathroom.
But you are allowed to ask for or require maximum possible compliance.
Yeah,
Yes.
Which is
And
what we
yeah.
end up doing, yeah.
And the problem we have is the lots in some cases are so limited, even with maximum compliance, it's still give and take.
And it's a holding day.
so this new law in
A
Massachusetts.
tight tank, it almost is what you're feeling like, you know?
Yes, this new law in Massachusetts, which just passed with the denitrification, you know, is, I don't know exactly where it came from or culminated from, but when I look at what Westport is doing and how Westport interpreted the line that says maximum possible compliance, they basically say that every lot, every repair has to meet new construction maximum possible compliance. Okay, so
Pretty extreme.
it is, okay, it is.
Then we're gonna have the police here and.
Well, you know,
No, I don't.
Protesting.
well, no, you're right, okay? Because the first, you know, what, you look at the average cost of a conventional septic system being, you know, right now, if you took the average of the whole state, conventional septic, you're probably looking at 25,000, 30,000.
Mhm.
And if you then look and somebody says, okay, well, now I gotta pay for one of these expensive denitrification systems, right? Well,
But you're telling us it's 12K.
no, that wouldn't be for a denitrification system, that's just to repair. But if new construction,
Yeah.
you're replacing a septic system.
Yeah.
If you were to use, you know, a Singulair or Advantex, right, or Biomicrobics Fast, right? The cost of that tank and the associated equipment, okay, to the contractor, okay, is say $7,000, right? Now, the cost of a 1,500-gallon two-compartment tank, or single-compartment tank with risers and covers and filter, right, is $2,000, right? So yeah, so it's gonna cost you $5,000 more for that component. But then you get a 50% field size reduction, which is pretty significant, right? So by the time you dig out your leach field, if you only have to dig out half of it, it means you've got to haul half of it away. and you've got to bring in half as much Title V sand. So there's a significant offset, so you can't just look at.
Well, yeah, the cubic yards of fill,
Yeah.
the height, the length, the width, the
Right.
volume.
Right, and if it's a replacement system, you get a 2-foot reduction in groundwater and a 50% fuel size reduction. So the volume of material that you have to remove and replace is huge, there's a huge difference. So there's a significant offset in savings. The other thing is, you know, a conventional septic system, you know, last time Mass DEP did an intensive study, the average life expectancy was 16 and a half years. They have since, you know, required 2-compartment tanks in some cases, and filters in some cases, right? And which was to get back up to the desired 20 years, okay? But, you know, any system with aerobic treatment has an indefinite life, right? Because there is no organic matter going out to the leach field, right? So it's not gonna last 16 years or 18 years or 20 years or 50 years or 60 years, 80 years, right? So there is an associated annual cost, but you don't have another replacement cost.
You actually increase the property value. You may spend a little more upfront, but you increase it in the end when you decide to sell it.
So it almost sounds like the Commonwealth of Mass right now is using Maine and New Hampshire almost as a petri dish for a test to see how long these things pan out.
No,
Oh,
you
they
know,
already know.
yeah,
Well, they're not allowing the frequency of use here, whereas these other states are more commonplace. We've already established
yeah,
this.
some states do much better, you know, Massachusetts tends to make you start from scratch with a new technology, right? I mean, before you can before you can use a technology in Massachusetts, you have to have federal approval. It has to go through the federal NSF testing, and then you've got to submit it to Massachusetts, and then you get a piloting or a provisional approval, and then you've got to do 18 systems, and then you've got to submit all of that data, and then they look at it, okay, now you get a remedial approval, and then you can do 50 systems, and then.
I'd like to say
It's
that.
brutal.
But we have homes in New Hampshire and Maine that have them right now, and we're only just on the precipice of doing this on the Cape.
Yeah, you know, the Cape has really been you know, struggling with how to mandate it. So in terms of regulations, New Hampshire, Massachusetts are behind, Maine and New Hampshire are behind Massachusetts. They more readily and easily allow new technologies,
Yeah.
but Massachusetts, in terms of pushing for a
Guidelines.
clean environment and enforcing it and whatnot, is ahead of them.
They wanted proof that it's working.
Yeah.
So do
We have more dense population, man.
So do we have, well, I'll tell you to Western Mass, but do you have, so are there sectors of Mass where we'll find these in homes yet?
So if you go anywhere from westerly Rhode Island to Augusta, Maine, in any New England state except for Connecticut, no matter where you are, you are no more than half an hour away from a system which
you've
we
installed.
sold, and serviced. And that's only us, and there's dozens of companies like us that are doing this.
I mean, commercial versus home,
No matter what, I mean, there's.
both,
Yeah,
okay,
both.
okay.
Yeah, so right now, we've got a little over 1,500 systems that we.
So the average homeowner that say has a 3 or 4 bedroom home, or say a 2,000 gallon system, what are they looking at on a cost in something like one of these systems roughly?
Well, so up to 6 bedrooms.
That's a big house.
Up to 6 bedrooms, for a denitrification system, you're looking at a contractor cost about $7,000.
Their cost for the materials,
Right,
not including installation.
right,
Okay, to be negotiated.
yeah. But, I mean, if you look at, so, I mean, and again, it's $7,000 as compared to, $2,000 for that septic tank. All right, so, it is more, okay?
Oh, you save on the other end.
Yeah, the field is smaller and lower,
And white.
and the life is.
Life
Lifespan's a lot
expectancy is,
longer.
Yeah,
And like you said, it sounds like, in the long run, it sounds like this is a way they're all gonna end up being told this is where you're going. Because it's more environmentally friendly.
It is, and, we have to protect our drinking water. It's just,
back the money.
Ed, I look forward to drinking out of your septic.
I'll bring you a couple glasses.
We'll do a toast.
Tastes a little crappy.
So in other words, all that water coming from Dunkin' Donuts and going through their septic system's gonna be cleaner,
Yes.
going out into the ponds behind Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, so, you know, right now, I mean, I haven't done any testing yet. You've got wetlands very close.
Right behind.
Yeah, right behind it. So now we're gonna treat that and discharge. And again, there's a big difference between what's called an NSF standard 40 system, which produces drinking quality water and a white night. But we are gonna clean this up so that, as you can see, what's leaving and going to the D-box has a lower waste strength than residential. And then it's gonna go in the leach field and get further cleaned up.
Anybody else have any other questions for Ms. Silva? Been a wonderful presentation, sir. Very,
If at any time you'd like to talk about any more of this, I wear a lot of hats.
Mhm.
I am the board of directors of GALA, which is the Macon State Wastewater Association. And their mission is to train boards of health people in the industry on anything that you may need to be trained. It's a wonderful resource. You can reach out to them directly, you can reach out to me. If there's anything in the industry on site that you want to learn more about, just, reach out.
That's good. We have a much broader understanding than we had going into it, knowing where the future of our town septic systems is most likely going, along with all the other in the Commonwealth. Excellent.
I thank you for your.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Appreciate you coming this evening.
Thank you. I appreciate you seeing me.
Nice to meet you, thank you for coming.
Thank you for getting my board members excited about wastewater treatment.
Oh yeah, we're gonna tip our glasses.
Good for yourself. For that, but-
I'll bring a drinking sample next time.
Right. Interesting though.
Okay, with that, back to the agenda. So, back to the agenda, item number 3, meeting minutes. That being said, has everybody had a chance to review the meeting minutes of the Monday, December 5th meeting?
Would you like to?
He was,
Oh,
he
you
has
asked
to
him,
abstain.
Simon, were you able to?
Yeah, I gave
Just
a copy
saying,
earlier.
okay. Oh, I have.
Okay.
Motion to approve it.
Motion has been made by member Lionel Cloutier to approve the minutes of December 5th to Monday, December 5th, 2022. Do we have a second?
Second?
Seconded by member Tina Santos. Hearing that, any discussion? None. Roll call vote to approve. Lionel Cloutier.
Yes.
Tina.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. With that, Tina, if you would be so kind, we'll sign this copy right here. No, you can't say anything. You have to abstain. You have to abstain. It's fine.
God, I looked at the clock, I said, we've been here that long?
I know, 10:55,
No.
like, that's not even
No,
like
that clock's way off.
daylight
It
savings
was a
time.
very good, it was a very good presentation, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and with that, Tina, would you like to take over?
Absolutely. All right, so I have about 5 to 6 food permits and 1 tobacco permit. We'll start with the food permits. First one is food permit number 2297. This is for the Winterton School. There is a $100 fee that was paid and no notes or violations.
I'll make a motion to approve permit number 2297, which is in the school.
A second.
We have a motion made by Ed Bond, seconded by Lionel Cloutier to approve permit 2297 for the Winchendon School. Any discussion? No notes or violations. Hearing none. Roll call vote. Lionel.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Tina.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Permit approved.
Alright, passing down. Next would be food permit, number 2298 for Cellier Group, Sellia Group, LLC DBA McDonald's. The $100 food, the fee was paid for $100 and there were no notes or violations.
I'll make a motion to approve permit number 2298, Cellier Group LLC, DBA McDonald's.
Second?
Permit approved for permit 2298 Cellier Group, known as McDonald's in Winchington. Motion was made by member Ed Bond, seconded by member Tina Santos. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Lionel.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Tina.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion approved 4-0.
There you go.
I just needed to read it because it was like.
Yeah, there was a big long word, or name, excuse me. Next, food permit 2299 for Walgreens. This is a retail food permit, fee paid of $100, and there were no notes or violations.
Make a motion to approve 2299.
I'll second it.
We have had a permit read for permit number 2299 Walgreens. No notes or violations, all fees paid. Motion was made by member Lionel Cloutier, seconded by member Ed Bond. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Lionel.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Tina.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion for the permit passes 4-0 yes. Next one, Immaculate Heart of Mary. This is a non-profit.
Yes. However, they paid I'm sorry, no. I apologize. This is for their yearly inspection and there was no notes or inspection. There was no fee. Or we would like to make a motion to waive the fee for Immaculate Heart of Mary.
I make a motion to waive.
What was the permit number on that, please?
2301, sorry.
No, it's okay, thank you. Go ahead, Lionel.
I make a motion to approve the
No fee.
Non-profit or waive the
non-profit
fee.
and also for the food permit.
We have a second?
Second?
Motion has been made for permit number 2301, Immaculate Heart of Mary, to approve their food permit with the waiver of a fee, which is standard practice by the Board of Health for a non-profit or not-for-profit in town. Motion was made in such by member Lionel Cloutier and seconded by member Tina Santos. With that, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Lionel Cloutier.
Aye.
Ed Bond.
Aye.
Tina Santos.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes 4-0.
And we have next food permit, retail food permit is number 2302 for Smith Country's Cheese, and no notes or violations.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it. For permit number 2302, Smith's Country Cheese.
We have a motion made for permit number 2302, Smith's Country Cheese. Motion was made by member Lionel Cloutier, seconded by member Ed Bond. No notes, fees paid. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Lionel.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Tina.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes for the permit 4-0.
Last food service permit for retail food permit was 2303, CVS Pharmacy. The $100 fee was paid and no notes or violations.
Make a motion to approve 2303 for CVS.
Second?
Motion was made for CVS Pharmacy, Central Street, permit number 2303, fees paid, no notes again or violations upon inspection by the health agent. Motion was made by member Lionel Cloutier, seconded by member Tina Santos. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Lionel Cloutier.
Aye.
Ed Bond.
Aye.
Tina Santos.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Permit passes 4-0 yes.
Jim, was there a 2300, or is it just, we just did
No, we
one?
start at 1.
Oh, I see, gotcha, all right, thank you. All right, so next is a tobacco permit. It's T23-08. This is for Cumberland Farms.
I don't have a copy of
This was a $150 fee that was paid.
that. Tobacco fee.
No, it's not on here. Jim, on the agenda, there's nothing written here about the tobacco, is there?
No, that
Mine
was,
just came.
yeah, that was one that came in, the paperwork.
So can we have the number again, Tina, please, on the tobacco
Sure.
permit?
2308.
T2308, that's Cumberland Farms, Lionel?
Yes. So the only one that we have not received is.
Family Dollar.
Family Dollar.
Jim, did you place a call today
I didn't get back in time, but.
to that regional district
till 5
manager?
5 o'clock, they would be closed, so I did try and get in touch with them last week.
Yeah, you called corporate when I was in the office
Yeah.
last week down in Virginia. No call back from them either.
I have not heard from them. I was gonna try and get
That's on
the
the-
regional manager today, but wasn't able to get back to the office in
Okay.
time.
I make a motion to approve the 72308 tobacco for Cumberland.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion made for permit number T2308, Cumberland Farms for their tobacco permit. The $150 fee is paid to Winchton. We have confirmation of their fee paid to the State Department of Revenue, which is obviously mandated to accompany that, so everybody knows for public clarity. Motion was made by member Lionel Cloutier and seconded by member Tina Santos. Hearing that, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Lionel Cloutier.
Aye.
Ed Bond.
Aye.
Tina Santos.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Permit passes 4-0.
Next, we have 2 invoices.
Okay.
First one is for, to reimburse Mr. Abear. James Abear for the total amount of $60, and this is for the Massachusetts Health Officers Association membership.
Make a motion to approve and pay Jim Abius the sum of $60.
Mass Health Officers Association.
Second?
We have a motion made by member Lionel Cloutier and seconded by member Ed Bond, member Tina Santos to pay the Mass Health Officers Association reimbursement for health agent James Abear for the sum of $60. Any discussion? This is an annual membership fee for anybody in the public who knows. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Lionel.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Tina.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes 4-0 for the $60 reimbursement to the health agent.
All right, and the last but not least, an invoice for our Board of Health recording secretary. It's for $75 for our December 5th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve payment of $75 for the Board of Health recording secretary for December meeting.
I'll second it.
We have a motion made by member Lionel Cloutier and seconded by member Tina Santos. for
And-
this-
Me.
Oh, I couldn't hear you. Was it you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Okay, thank you. No, I didn't even, I could not hear you. I heard Tina talking and I couldn't hear you. All right, we have a motion made by member Lionel Cloutier and seconded by member Ed Bond to pay the recording secretary for her work on the minutes of the meeting for the month of December minutes due to the Board of Health, which I'd also like to add to our recording secretary. Per request of Tina Santos today, she did an excellent job on revising the minutes today to help Tina out with some corrections in a very timely manner. Our new recording secretary is doing a heck of a job. She was there at the last minute, made some corrections to work for the good of the board, so good job to the recording secretary. So, we have a motion made. Any discussion on paying the bill? Hearing none, roll call vote. Lionel,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Tina,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion passes 4-0.
That's all I have for this evening.
Okay. That bill?
That's it.
Okay, for the members of the board, so you can let all your friends and anybody else know, or so we can let the general public know. We still have home antigen COVID-19 iHealth lab tests in the Town of Winchton Board of Health office at this time that are still prorate extended by the FDA through the end of January 28th to be exact, but trust me, they're good through the end of January. These COVID-19 home antigen tests, we have probably 100 left or so on the shelf and another case of 90 to go. On top of that, the health agent just got done working again with HHS, as I did with the last batch before, and the health agent has just got us another basically 11 cases roughly of 90. So we are good to go. This next round of tests, we opened it up and verified it. The next round of tests we have in the health office are now rated to, what was it, James, we got July 9th, I believe. We got
so.
July 9th, yes. So we are now good to go on the next round of tests due to July 9th. At the most recent meeting of the school committee, we updated the school committee on where our town stands on public health with our numbers. We did a sliding scale. I brought a presentation to the school committee. We did a sliding scale of where we were through all the variants and where we were going into the holiday break. The school committee was happy to know the Board of Health and its members care about our children and where our students are. So the school committee knows the Board of Health is watching over our schools actively with all our members as a team effort. And anybody else on the Board of Health, if you have any new business, open it up to you.
I just would like to say Happy New Year to everybody, and I'm
Absolutely.
still having a hard time kind of writing 2023.
2023, yeah, you're in good company, you're not alone, you're not alone.
So,
With that said, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion to adjourn by member Ed Bond and seconded by Lionel Cloutier. With that, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Lionel,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Tina,
aye.
and the chair votes aye. This meeting is adjourned at 7:23 p.m. Happy New Year to everybody.